help women, save lives, and peacefully end abortion where you live.
I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired.
You were serious about that?
Be inspired to change hearts and minds by joining over 1 million volunteers taking part in the global movement happening in your neighborhood.
She says, pray that I can get through this abortion. And I said, oh, no. So she went ahead and went into the abortion clinic. And she just came out. She told us, I'm not going to get the abortion. We just had a baby saved. We had a baby saved in Memphis today. Praise the Lord.
This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Sean Carney.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the 40 Days for Life podcast. I'm Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life, and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion where you live. If you have not already gotten it, it's a good time of year to do so. Order the 40 Days for Life devotional. We've gotten so many great reviews and feedback from this. It's a beautiful little book. It's $5 on our store. If you buy a certain amount, we've made it as cheap as we can get it. But get this devotional. It is a great, beautiful reflection on the life of Christ, and it's 40 days long. So no matter what time of year you get it, you can start using it. It's just hit me today. We've sold thousands of these, and it's just been awesome. So if you do not have yours, get it. That is our book plug for the day. So today we have an interesting topic and one that we need to cover, and that is pop culture and abortion. We haven't talked about this in a while, but it just has come up recently in a big story, which is Britney Spears' memoir, talking about her own abortion and how it basically touched on every aspect of abortion. And we will kind of break that down and talk about not just her, but other things going on in the culture that shows in the midst of this onslaught of abortion being a sacrament for so many people in post-Roe America and screaming at us about the greatness of abortion, it's just interesting that there's some pop culture examples, a big one with Britney Spears saying, this was awful, and, you know, I regret it. So to join me, two pop stars in their own realm. Ramona Trevino, former Planned Parenthood manager. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Mr. Pop Culture, pop star, pop tart, pop everything.
I don't even need an introduction.
Yeah. Well, when the word pop comes up, I think of you anyways, not necessarily in the context of pop star, I have to admit, but y'all drink pop.
Yeah, grape soda. And that's the type of star that I am. I am like number one customer, number one consumer, big fan.
But you call it pop.
So that's an interesting, well, this is not interesting at all.
This is an entire podcast.
Yeah. I'm on a little island in Wisconsin that calls it soda. Everybody else calls it pop. But I'm like geographically, when you look at the nerd maps, I'm in soda land.
Right. But here's my problem. I don't like either one of them. So it's pop or it's soda. And in the South, we say, I want a Coke.
Right, which also means Dr. Pepper, right? Like
Correct.
You can get a Coke, but you actually get a Dr. Pepper.
But if you say, I'm going to get a Coke, they're like, well, what kind? Which is kind of funny.
Well, we have determined that Steve is the one who's keeping grape soda alive and well. Like, he's the only consumer of grape soda.
There's no doubt. And he has yet to explain to me or the audience, frankly, what grape soda is.
There are tens of dentists earning a living because of my consumption of grape soda.
Grape soda, for the record, does not contain grapes.
It's organic.
From the hills of the Napa Valley.
the blue bubbles and the fizz, that tells you that it's really made out of nature's best.
So if let's say we got a lot of health nuts, okay, that are part of this podcast. Somehow they forgive all of this and still listen. If they're just like, you know what? I'm sick of Jenny Craig or keto or Weight Watchers. I'm actually I like Steve Carlin. I respect him. Maybe people even read your book. I am going to try grape soda. So what is like the Dom Perignon of grape soda? Like the best, it can't be more than 75 cents. So
no, if you get some of those artisanal like craft sodas, from like Italy. That's some good stuff. But
craft grape soda.
yeah, you don't need to overthink
like craft
it,
beer. Or some random distillery in Kentucky nobody's heard of, and they make this awesome bourbon, like that version of grape soda.
Yes, that's what I'm talking. That's what we're discussing here. Yes, that is very good, but you don't have to overthink it. If you want to get started, the Grape Crush, or I'm a big fan of the generic grape soda.
Oh,
okay.
No, you're
Not
white
Fanta.
trash.
Yeah,
that's
What about
that is.
Fanta? Fanta has a grape soda. Don't
Yeah,
they?
I think of Fanta.
Fanta is excellent. I tend to go with Orange Fanta Grape Crush.
Okay.
But I mean, you can't go wrong.
Grape Crush is a brand, and
Yes.
then you have Orange Crush.
Yes.
So Grape Crush is like what is that, like a Mercedes?
Yeah.
And then Fanta is like a BMW. It's another, like, same level, but...
Yes, they're peers.
And what's just the garbage, the generic, like...
Faygo. Do you have Faygo here?
No.
Faygo.
It sounds like a gay bar. What is Faygo?
Don't knock it till you tried it.
I'm knocking it. I'm never trying it. How's that? Faygo, it does. It sounds like a strip club or something.
No, it's amazing because they can...
Would you go anywhere named Faygo?
No.
Everybody
I
knows-
wouldn't drink anything called Faygo.
They're great because everybody knows you can get like a liter of soda or you can get a 2-liter bottle of soda. But Faygo, you can get a 3-liter bottle.
Oh, wow. Does it cost the same as the 2-liter soda?
No, it's more, but like per ounce, it's a better deal.
Gotcha.
And just for the record, because this isn't Fuego.
No, Faygo.
Okay.
Faygo.
Faygo.
Okay.
I'm uncomfortable with that
Yeah.
in general. So
I didn't name it. I just drink it. You name the babies, I'll name the dogs.
I'll name the dogs. You name the babies, I'll name the dogs. Okay. Well, there you have it. Go check it out. Not Faygo.
As hard as
But-
it may be to believe, none
Crush.
of this was scripted. Like, this is all our natural
None of this
abilities
is
on
scripted.
this banter section of the podcast.
I think that's what makes this so difficult. So, to quote Seinfeld, somehow we're going to get out of that. Do you want to say anything else? Are you done with grape soda?
I think I'm
You
done
like
with grape.
normal
I
food,
didn't
though.
even know that grape soda still existed.
But here's the thing. This is just one of the weird things about Steve that I enjoy talking about is the soda and the pop and the grape soda. Because he told me one day, yeah, I really like grape soda. And I just thought, like, no one's ever said that
Like he's the
sentence
first
to me,
person you've ever
who's
met.
over 8 years of age.
Right.
But Steve has a driver's license. He went to college. Like, he's a functioning adult in society. And,
Don't insult the children, Sean. None of my children have ever had grape soda before.
yeah, my kids have had Orange Crush because my father-in-law, he's with you on all this.
Good.
Big Red, Orange Crush, anything weird he's into.
What is Big Red?
You don't know what Big Red is?
No.
Okay, see, that's where we draw
That's
the
a
line.
Dr.
I
Pepper.
love Big Red is awesome.
Producer John,
We've gotta get him some Big Red.
I know you know what Big Red is. So you grew up on Big Red. That's right. Well,
it was in his bottle.
is it? And Big Red's a Southern thing, right? Oh yeah. Made by Dr. Pepper, I think.
What flavor is it?
I think it's vanilla. I think it's vanilla.
And it's big.
I think we determined it's vanilla flavored.
Vanilla. Okay.
I think so.
No, it's not.
You don't
it's
think
like
so?
nasty carbonated cough syrup.
But it kind of tastes vanilla.
I've never had one. What am I saying? I've never had Big Red. I think I tasted it as a kid. I was like, this is disgusting.
Okay, I'm bringing Big Red next time to HQ.
Yeah, please
I'm
do.
gonna bring you an ice cold.
You're
Big
going to
Red.
love Big Red.
I believe it.
I feel like we just introduced you to...
Do you like red Fanta?
Strawberry?
Well, I guess.
No,
well, I call
strawberry's
it
no
red
good.
Fanta.
No, I don't think
Okay.
so. I don't think so.
Okay, I'm bringing some Big Reds next time.
I
Yeah.
can't believe y'all don't have Big Red. That seems like a very Midwestern, like you're eating wings and cheese and Big Red. Respectfully.
Not knowing what it is, everything I hear about it appeals to me.
You'll
very
like
much.
it.
Yeah.
No, you'll run out and get like the finest Cuban cigar and pour yourself like a neat, Big Red and just enjoy yourself on the porch. Yeah, I think you would love Big Red.
I look forward
Christmas
to it.
suggestions. Steve Carlin, birthday. When's your birthday?
December 1.
For some reason, when I think of Big Red, I associate it with like beef jerky and like Twizzlers. Yeah.
Or Britney Spears and her love for Cheetos and her shaved bald head at the convenience store, right?
Oops, I did it again.
Yeah.
There we go. That's our transition into the topic at hand. Moving on.
Nice segue, Ramona.
Great segue. Where's Britney Spears from?
Is it Tennessee
I think so. She's from the South. She knows what Big Red is.
or
Okay.
Louisiana? Louisiana or Tennessee? One of the two.
I don't know.
Somewhere
I don't know if
around
she's
there.
from Louisiana.
Maybe Louisiana.
What was her first big hit? You just knew it. We were in high school.
Hit Me Baby One More Time.
Yeah. The uplifting song of the decade. Okay, so going back, we're 90s kids, so Britney Spears was just huge. Kind of like not this level, because he was so like legendary, but as far as pop culture, Madonna had kind of faded off, even though she was still super famous. She's like the new Madonna. She's like the female Michael Jackson. She's at this huge level, okay?
Yeah.
Well, she's the princess of pop. She's referred to as the princess of pop.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good parallel in many ways because her dancing was better than her singing, which I think was probably true for Michael Jackson. And they had similar sort of just devolutions after their peak. They just they unraveled quickly, we might say.
Yeah, I didn't know what happened to Britney Spears. I just thought, like most people, she just kind of like faded off because her rival was Christina Aguilera. And I think I like Christina Aguilera better, going back to my high school or middle school memory.
There was a little Jessica Simpson in there.
Jessica
too,
Simpson, and she's from Texas. I liked her. I was never into the Britney Spears thing, but she kind of went away, and then she came back because her parents were trying to rip her off, right? So she's having like this midlife crisis, and like Ted Cruz tweeted, like, "I support Britney Spears." I'm like, what's going on? So then it was all the legal battle with her parents. But then she writes a book, and this is when it gets real, which is she's post-abortive, but for somebody who basically as a child is just shoots up in celebrity. She's like a star as a kid. And then, of course, a teenager and then a young adult. She's like taking over the entire world. You're just guaranteed that this memoir is going to say, I couldn't have had this career. I couldn't have entertained millions of people and had all my fans in the relationship with my fans without having this abortion at 19. I think she was 19. She didn't say that at all.
No, got forced into it by the way, I know we're not. Yeah, Justin Timberlake.
Justin said he wanted me to have an abortion and he didn't want the baby.
He didn't want to be a father. He wasn't ready to be a father.
I wanted the baby. I think that could be obviously 100% true, but we don't know that. Justin, I mean, these were like children. Maybe she wanted the abortion. I don't think that she did, but it looked kind of odd just saying, well, he didn't want me to have it. I guess that's the true story, so she's telling it. It's a memoir. But, I mean, do we believe her? I mean, is it fair to Justin Timberlake?
Well, I guess
I believe her.
It'd be interesting to see what he has to say about it, and he's not going to say anything about it. Or at least so far, he hasn't said anything about it. I know if that were me and it weren't true, I'd be pretty quick to be like, hey, whoa, and set the record straight. He hasn't. If you think back to his Super Bowl performance, he hasn't exactly demonstrated a respect for women. I think he blamed Janet Jackson for that whole fiasco.
I didn't think that was going to come up on the podcast. Here's what he should say, because I think whether he urged her, forced her, told her, inspired her, convinced her to have an abortion, he should address it either way, because they're, how old are they? Like 45 years old now? How old's Britney Spears?
Lower 40s, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, like our age.
Yeah.
Okay, so Justin should come out and say, I'm glad Britney, is getting, is sharing her story. I've so loved the memories we had together. We went through good times, we went through difficult times, and, I'll just leave it at that. He could say something, right?
Well, instead of denying it,
did he deny it, or did he just go silent?
He hasn't denied it. What he did is his wife, actress Jessica Biel, came out, and there's like this clip in Cosmo where they shared that she was asking people to stop trolling him on social media and that he deserved to be at peace.
So for the listener and the viewer, right now, besides our intellectual commentary on Grape Crush, there is I could give a crap about all these Hollywood people, blah, blah, blah. But the reason it's significant is because we in the pro-life movement, or Americans in general, we never get this. We get the offshoot celebrity, making a pro-life comment. But this is beyond that. This is pop culture, not saying I'm pro-life, not saying God bless the Supreme Court, but saying I had an abortion, I didn't want it, and I regret it to this day. And that never happens. It sure as heck never happens from somebody as big as somebody like Britney Spears. That's why we're talking about it, because this is the kind of stuff that comes up, at work or at school or whatever, because the whole thing we've been sold by Hollywood is abortion's great and it's the solution to all the world's problems.
Yeah. And this direct quote from her book, she said, "To this day, it's one of the most agonizing things I have ever experienced in my life."
I think, too,
And
that
she's been through hell.
Yes. And I think, too, that you can't take it out of context. This is not just sort of taking place in a vacuum. This is at a moment where celebrities are crawling out of the woodwork to say how great their abortions were for them. And who was it that said...
Michelle Williams with her Oscar?
She said that. And then there was a celebrity who I can never remember why she's famous. Lena Dunham. Like, why is she famous? I literally Googled why is Lena Dunham famous and still don't know the answer after trying to read about it. But
Who is she?
I don't know why she's famous.
She's an actress, and I think she's written, I think she was like famous for some series called Girls or something. I can't remember exactly, but
not
it's not
like
someone you want to know.
Like, you're not really famous.
Right.
She's pretty famous.
Okay.
She's made a lot of headlines with the book that she put out and whatnot, and I can't figure out why she's famous.
But not for good reasons.
A few years
right?
ago,
Yeah.
she was everywhere, and then she's kind of like disappeared. But she was saying, just to put it in context of this moment in history, she went out and said, like, I've never had an abortion, but I wish that I had.
Mm-hmm.
That's the moment that we live in, where everybody's out there to share, like, yes, I had it. So you would think that Britney would perhaps be joining that, I guess. I'm not sure why, but instead she took a very different track. It's very sort of, what she said, the quote that you just provided is bold, but it's also somewhat understated. To me, it feels very believable because it matches the lived experience of those who we meet out at 40 Days for Life vigils, those who we see at Silent No More events, those who are sharing their abortion testimonies. We've seen this story that you just shared from Britney Spears a million times. The difference is this is Britney Spears, who everybody knows.
Right.
Yeah, and the argument with that some people have are like, yeah, but who cares? Just because she's famous, she gets all this attention and blah, blah, blah. Well, the difference is that we work with women, and most people are never going to know that she had an abortion, right? And some women do go around and share their abortion experience, but they're doing it max at the March for Life with 200,000 people. Britney Spears, this had a Twitter X, formerly Twitter. This had a Twitter reach of 55 million people. And Instagram was 42 million. I mean, it's different on the level of putting yourself out there. But our point is that the reason she did it, she doesn't care what people think of her, is because it actually hurt her. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And she carries the burden to this day. And she's like, if I'm going to write, what's the name of this? The Woman in Me is her memoir. Then this is going in there because I've carried this for years. Mm-hmm. She's dealt with her nutbag parents, her own psychological issues and emotional issues. She's a little out there. She's kind of crazy. Losing her children. All this stuff. She's been through a lot. And this is what she said she's agonized over every single day. And that is exactly what we hear from these women who've had an abortion.
The other reason I think it makes sense that we're talking about a celebrity when this story is tens of millions of women could tell this story. The reason we're talking about one because she's famous is because the abortion industry denies that all the rest exist. Oh, that's a figment. Pro-lifers are making it up. We've got the research. They deny the existence, which is interesting because when you deny that somebody can be trans, they say you're having a trans genocide, I guess. Are they genociding women who have suffered the trauma of abortion? I don't know. But what I do know is they try to act like it's a figment of our imagination that women regret their abortions. And now here we've got the tens of millions who are hearing this story just through social media alone, much less, I think this was on Fox News and various other media outlets.
Well,
That's a really good point.
Well, I was going to say, and to think of how many millions of women can relate to this, like just being on social media and watching this play out and reading people's comments and how many women are in support of her. And who knows, how many of them have had an abortion in their past, have felt coerced, but not just coerced, but Britney, like my heart breaks for her when I think about it because she was a teenager, she was in love, She imagined herself having a family with him one day.
Which she said.
She said, yeah.
One day, I guess that's now.
Yeah.
We're going to be a family.
And she experienced what so many women, I had that experience, even though I chose life, of telling someone, I'm pregnant, and then not receiving the reaction that you anticipated from the person that you're in love with and who says they love you. And then to have that rejection and to experience that rejection. And so many women across the globe have experienced that. And so I think that's why it's important for us to talk about it because, like you said earlier, people could be like, who cares about these celebrities? But we care because this really speaks to the human, the humanity of it and the heart of what so many women are experiencing.
And the consistency of the abortion experience. You can be top of the world. Britney Spears is huge, huge. And one of the biggest stars of all time in American history. Or you can be,
your everyday
dead
average
broke,
person. Yeah.
Waiting tables and you go through an abortion. It doesn't matter. The experience is the same. And what you said kind of struck a chord in that her age is interesting because I think one of the great things about this being in her memoir is there were just those girls. We had them in our high school. They were like, Britney Spears, oh my God. It was like Leonardo DiCaprio, when he first came out. Oh my gosh, Romeo and Juliet came out, and then by 1998, when Titanic comes out, we just wanted our school to be like an all boys school. We're just so sick of hearing about this dork.
100%.
And that was back like Leo was like a little like scrawny kid. Now he's like cool and he did The Departed and he's like a real actor. But back then he was just like the guy that all the girls were in love with. It's like Leonardo DiCaprio, oh my God! And so women will get this. And I bet you there's a ton of women that had an abortion at the same time who are now Britney's age of 40, 41, who were like, she went through the same thing I did during the same time that I went through it. I think that's interesting with the timing of it.
Well, on average, what is it? Like statistically speaking, women wait, 10 years before they speak about their abortion?
So she waited 20.
Yeah, she waited 20. This is...
If you look at
normal.
Every abortion experience and the trauma that follows are different. They're unique to the woman who experiences the abortion. All of that said, there are patterns that we can tell and that the research have revealed. And this is in many ways sort of a textbook case. The regret took decades in this case to come out. It was held privately until then. Her relationship ended after the abortion, which was not her desire. She went into personal tailspin with substance abuse and personal abuse and issues with her surviving, her future surviving children. All these things sort of like go down the checklist. And so think about it too. Not only did she go through this, but someone with means like she had, they're perhaps a little bit better positioned to be able to just like survive through this. Imagine the people where we know that abortion is genetics minded. And so you've got like the inner city people, the low income people, the racial minorities who are suffering in various ways. They don't have any of the benefits, or to use the popular word today, any of the privilege that Britney Spears had, and they're going through the same trauma, the same heartache, the same problems, the same physical problems, the same side effects, all these things taking place. What have we done?
Yeah, and it's I think it shows that if it's her and her spiral out of control, a lot of people will be like, well, that's not the abortion's fault. They'll just kind of discount it. But it happened early, and it clearly was a problem for her, which is why she put it in here. I wonder how many people tried to talk her out of putting it in here. Like Britney Spears, she goes to the grocery store, she probably has 10 people around her. It's like her financial advisor, the makeup guy, the hair guy. And how many lawyers or even literary agents, they may have liked it, I don't know. Or they maybe wanted her to say, shouldn't you thank abortion health care, because that would be really popular now. And it would have sold a lot of books if she came out and she said, it's a tough decision, every woman's got to do it on her own, but abortion was a blessing for me. Like, how many people probably tried to talk her into either leaving it out or making it a positive? And she clearly said no.
Yeah. I haven't read the book, so I don't know what comes
Me
after
neither.
this,
I don't think I'm going to read the book because it probably...
I'd like to read it for
You
this
should
reason.
read it.
For this reason. You know what
You
I
were
mean?
one
I
of
want to
those girls.
see...
Were you a
I
Britney
wasn't
Spears?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
But I think seeing this and watching this play out, there's this new level of compassion that I feel for her.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I think there's
That's
so many...
not true, because I read online on the internet that pro-lifers hate women who have abortions.
That's right. Even celebrities, yeah.
Yeah.
When I saw the story, I said, well, this explains a lot.
It does.
And I feel awful for her because what a lot. I mean, it's like the last thing you want is your kid becomes a pop star. And her parents were nuts and they were looking for money. But it's just a disaster on the soul.
But it makes so much sense looking back now and watching her unravel.
Oh, totally.
Unravel early on, right after her split with Justin Timberlake, because of course we know that the majority of relationships don't make it
Right.
after an abortion. And so she splits with him, and then you watch her spiral, and then she gets married to Kevin Federline right away, and then they have 2 kids back to back. And again, we hear that story so often too in post-abortive women who want to replace their babies, right? Their aborted baby with a new pregnancy. And
Right.
so, just being able to go back and look at how she spiraled, it's just, I don't know. It's I have so much compassion for her now, and I think reading a lot of comments from people who always had negative things to say about her, that she's crazy and all this other stuff. I can't go there anymore. I just I look at her differently.
I think that's revealing too, in a very good way, about pro-lifers, because I kind of joked before, like, oh, I read on the internet pro-lifers hate women who have abortions and whatnot. I didn't like Britney Spears' music 20 or 25 years ago when it was popular, and I certainly am not thinking about her today. And yet everybody universally is having the same reaction where it's like, oh, gosh,
Yeah.
I feel terrible for her.
Yeah. Yeah, like I remember her. I loved her music, or I didn't love her music, whatever it is. And I think for those that were just, I don't know if she has a name, like the Taylor Swift people are
The Swifties?
Swifties. What's the Britney Spears version of that?
I think she does have.
She has
some
something.
Yes,
it's on
she
the
does.
internet. I don't know what it is, but there's some like, you are a Britney Spears person.
On this episode, we need just a guy in the corner with a phone looking
We
stuff
do. We
up.
need to start Googling some of this. Like, what is a Britney Spears?
Where's she from? What state? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Tennessee? I don't know.
Somebody's yelling right now. There, she's from
I know.
here.
And we've got these Britney Swifters, whatever they are. They're out there like, they don't even know where she's from. It's an insult.
Well, I think when you've grown up with her, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
You grew up with her, and then you see, where she's at with these crazy Instagram videos and all these dancing with knives. And everyone thinks it's comical, and then you read this, and then your heart just breaks. It just breaks, because we all know women who are post-abortive who have gone through this pain, and then it like hits close to home at that
hits
point.
close
Yeah,
to home.
yeah.
And she had really no chance. I mean, I'm glad that she had the courage to put this in the book. But I mean, for our generation, every middle school dance, high school dance, wedding reception, there's like 3 Britney Spears songs, right? It was just like, and she didn't just like come and go. It wasn't like 3 years. She's not Vanilla Ice, who I love. That guy's amazing. We can get him on the podcast.
And you make fun of me for grape soda.
Hey, here's what happened. I went through the MC. I was an MC Hammer guy. Then Vanilla Ice came out, and then you just turn on Vanilla Ice. Like white people can't rap. Like, this is stupid. And then you grow up and you make fun of Vanilla Ice, and then Ice Ice Baby comes on, and you haven't heard it in 20 years, and you're like, this is the greatest song in the history of the world. So he came to College Station when
I've got your back on this one.
Yeah.
I've got your back on
Ice Ice Baby.
So is he your most, like, of the sort of like pop rock guys from childhood, is he like the guiltiest pleasure for you? Is he like the most embarrassing, like, person that you'll admit to liking the music?
Yes, but I don't think, and you're going to back me up on this, I don't think he's embarrassing because the whole world was obsessed with him.
Sure.
So it's not like
No one can deny that they, no one can lie and say, I didn't. I wasn't a fan.
But there's some things we're looking back here like, what were we thinking? And I think he generally, like, it's sort of like you look back at like the 70s photos and you're like, huh, orange carpet, that's a bold choice, but everybody did it back then.
Yeah, wooden
green
paneling.
refrigerator.
Great. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the lime green refrigerator. Ice. Yeah, but Vanilla Ice, he was gold. I know he left his career to become a professional jet skier at one point. And then he's a contractor. Now he's a contractor, I
Like
think.
flips houses and
Yeah,
stuff.
like
Yeah.
Renaissance man.
Vanilla Ice has an LLC. He's legit. Yeah.
If you've got a problem, he's going to solve it.
Ching.
You got me on that. And then what happens is he has all these reversions when you have your own kids, because of course they love this song. even though he's like packing his 9, like no 5-year-old knows what that is. But you're like, whatever, the shells are falling. What's going on, Dad? Just listen to it. It's a good song. But Ninja Turtles, because I forgot about that. We rented the original Ninja Turtles, and he's got Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go.
As much as this is an interesting thing here, we've got some listeners who chime in every time we mention the baby boomers. Our millennial generation has the same disease that the boomers have, which is an over-reliance on nostalgia. In that all the stuff from, like, I don't care about the Beatles, but they still do, and like now the Turtles are back because we're giving it to our kids, right?
We're not as bad. Okay, I agree. That's because our parents are baby boomers, so we kind of have that gene. It's not as strong as the baby boomers.
Good.
You get a baby boomer in a room, any conversation, they will talk about their hometown or their high school or their football stats, or you'll be like in Bruce Springsteen, like in 2 seconds. They talk about their own parents a lot. There's the nostalgia, like, which is great, but it's just baby boomers are the most like, man, to be 18 again. I have found.
Yeah.
And millennials are like, I like being an adult. I don't know.
That's
high
true.
School. Here's where the baby boomers crush us on this conversation. And maybe we need some of our baby boomers to write in because I'm going to compliment y'all. But also, I may be wrong because I wasn't alive. But to me, the baby boomers, as far as music, don't have any like weird Vanilla Ice people. Like they were all awesome. Like nobody's like, you like Creedence Clearwater Revival? It's like, yeah, they were awesome then and they're awesome now.
I'm about to put out a hot take.
Well, you're the
hot take.
You had a band, so you're.
I'm gonna say this to the camera. The Beatles were terrible.
Okay, here's the problem with that. So I fully agree.
Awesome.
I hate the Beatles. I don't like anything about the Beatles.
Some of those early things, like the poppy, like I Want to Hold Your Hand, fine, nice pop song, or like Twist and Shout. There's a couple, but then like it took them like 2 years before they got weird, and their stuff that was like revolutionary is just pure garbage.
How many STDs did All You Need Is Love cause? And if you see any of the modern plays, I don't know how close this is with the Beatles, but there was a show that traveled the country, and that whole song, they're just criticizing like nuns and priests. Like that they have like these angry nuns and priests come out because they don't want people to have sex because they're me. And so I was like, I thought All You Need Is Love is like a little bit of anti-war, a little bit of love and peace, and now it's like anti-Catholicism or anti-authority or whatever, which they just could not help themselves. I don't like the Beatles either, but here's my thing. They're untouchable. It doesn't matter. They
made Yellow Submarine just to prove that they could put out something bad and it would still be a hit.
I don't understand the obsession with the Beatles.
Right.
The only thing we have now is Taylor Swift. I would say that's probably on the same level. People are like flying their kids to Bangkok to go to the Taylor Swift concert.
You can't escape it during a football game.
Exactly. She's invading the NFL. But the Beatles are like Elvis. You got to put Garth Brooks in there. You got to put George Strait in there. You've got to put probably Madonna, as crazy as she is. Michael Jackson for sure. Where if somebody's like, I don't like their music, it doesn't matter. They're too big. It's like saying, I don't really care about the Packers football. And it's like, yeah, but they're an institution.
It's sort of the monoculture that we used to have where there weren't 500 different TV channels and streaming services and whatnot. So everyone had to follow the same thing. Like all the highest rated TV shows are all from the 80s because you just didn't have, everybody's watching
There weren't very
MASH.
many options.
But I'm interested,
right?
for all you baby boomers out there, is there whether it's a one-hit wonder or a song that we maybe hear that we like because we're 90s kids, like what was your guilty pleasure of like this band was really terrible, but they had these 1 or 2 really good songs? Because I don't know them. I need to ask my mom. That answer.
I would like to have her on the podcast.
We will not be having my mom on the podcast to discuss pop culture. That I can tell you. So, but yeah, that's. But in that realm, I think today, if the Beatles were together and they were still like their thing, Beach Boys, we can throw them in there. Can we throw Jimmy Buffett in there? God rest his soul.
Why not?
There we go. So the Beatles today would be, I think, hosting Planned Parenthood fundraisers at their house.
For sure.
And that's the point, is that we're supposed to, the longer we get away from 1973, the more pro-abortion we're going to get. We're just going to get wiser, right? And yet what's happened is, as you get older, starting with the baby boomers, very, very pro-abortion, gave us all this garbage, and then they become accountants and vote for Reagan and all this stuff, okay, and turn out somewhat normal, some of them. And then you get to like millennials, which Britney Spears is like us. She's an old millennial. She's like the oldest. I think I'm the oldest millennial in like 6 months. She comes out and she says, I don't support abortion, or I'm not pro-life, I'm not pro-choice. I had an abortion. It hurt me. I regret it. Justin Timberlake's a loser. I wanted to have a family. And she didn't even say he's a loser. She just tells the story, matter of fact, to her credit. But that just didn't happen, I think, in the 60s and 70s. I mean, they were going out saying peace and love, and maybe they were criticizing the government for Vietnam, but that was a reasonable, like, political view that a lot of people were opposed. They weren't saying, it's not like John Lennon fought in Vietnam and said we shouldn't be there. I know that there are celebrities that did that, but they weren't Britney Spears. Britney Spears had the experience, took over the world culturally, and then later revealed that she had an abortion. It's the most devastating thing.
It speaks to the fact that support for abortion is always framed in the abstract. I'm in favor of choice, reproductive rights, reproductive justice. All of these things are always the abstract. When it comes down to what abortion looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like, we run from that because those who have experienced it know how miserable it is, and those who love those who have experienced know how miserable it is.
Well, and we have the statistical proof to back it up too, with the Lozier Institute's report of 70% of women who were coerced into abortion, and I don't remember what the percentage is of women who have said that they regret their abortion.
It was a strong majority, about 70%, that said that the abortion was either unwanted or inconsistent with their values, and then it was about a quarter of them said that it was forced or they were unwilling, but they got basically pressured into it, forced into it, coerced into it. Which
is a really, really high number, 70%.
Yeah, extraordinary.
Absolutely. And so that falls in line with, what we see with Britney. And ironically, Michelle Williams is the one reading the audio version of her book.
No way.
No way.
Yes. Yes. And so when I heard that, I was like, okay, that's an interesting twist to all of this, right? Because we remember Michelle Williams is the one who was saying, holding her Oscar on stage, saying that she wouldn't be there without her abortion, right? And so now she's reading the audio version of Britney's book.
That's very ironic. That's a tale of two cities, except Britney Spears is 50 billion times bigger than her. The only reason I know who she is because of the Oscar thing, where she made the announcement. Okay, this is kind of interesting. So you do something like this, you put yourself out there, and social media gets to participate.
What a time to be alive. Aren't you glad that all of the wisdom of our collective society can come together in one place?
See, well, you should knock social media, because if the Beatles were alive and touring still, you could just get on your Facebook page and be like, the Beatles suck. Signed, Steve Carlin, promoter of Grape Fanta.
That's right.
And he'd have millions of followers, right? Just support him.
You would actually lead the anti-Beatles thing. You could have followers because you'd be like, they're a bunch of all white male sexist Brits, and you could kind of use that angle.
Colonizers,
cisgendered men.
All you need is love and a ruthless king. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, see? So sometimes social media can be helpful. Okay. All right, so here's one of the quotes from social media. Spears could afford to raise her baby on her own. I hate it when people do that. Like, if you're rich, you shouldn't have the abortion.
That's kind of the wild thing. Like, they can't decide which way they want it. It's, the women they're too poor to have it. There's no bad reason to have an abortion. There's no good reason to choose life. We have the most prosperous civilization in the history of humanity. We have the means in the society to take care of any woman, man, or child, and yet we still have abortion as a leading cause of death in the country. This is just someone coming in, what do they call it? Their priors. They come in with their priors or support for abortion, and if she were poor, they'd say, she should have done it because she was poor, and she's not poor, so she didn't have to do it anyway.
But I'm also seeing that even from pro-lifers, too.
No, me too.
The same attitude.
I think it's both. It's
Yeah,
the one
absolutely.
comment that we get both. It's more frustrating for me from the pro-lifers. Like, I mean, she wasn't even poor. Those who
Right.
Now we're participating in the eugenics part of it, because the pro-abortion side of it is, shame on Justin and Britney. And we need abortion in our country, but we need it for those poor women. We need it for women, babies with disabilities and all this stuff. But Britney, she made a good living, and she would have been a good mom, and she should have had that baby. There are some people that will say that.
Right.
And that's sort of our inner eugenics coming out of like, hey, she's not like living in a trailer, right? She's not like some poor black person in Mississippi. Like, she should have had her kid. And I think it's odd and awkward, but the pro-lifers say that too.
But it speaks to our mentality on the issue as a whole, because what happens is people think that the deciding factor here is money, right? Like, because we've lost track of the idea that this is a human life and human life is sacred. So, period, right? Like, period. This is why she should be having her baby. But instead, there's all the caveats, right? That, she was rich. She should have been able to afford this baby. And so we're forgetting the matter of the heart here. Like, when you're 19 years old and you're in love, and you may be rich and famous, and you may have all the abilities to be able to hire a nanny and get help and whatnot, and she still chose it. So you've got all these pro-lifers who are angry at her, like, you should have had your baby. We're forgetting the heart of it, which is, this was a young woman, a teenager, who was in her camp to empower her. And it goes back to us as pro-lifers. We need to be empowering women to choose life. And so she probably didn't have anybody in her circle to empower her. If we think about the fact that her parents were, her conservators of her money, well, it wasn't in their best interest for Britney to have a baby, right? They needed her to continue to be that cash cow. So, it makes sense that she did not have someone in her corner to say, you can do this, Britney. We've got you. We love you. You don't need him. A lot of women, regardless of their socioeconomic status, that's what they need. They need someone just to say, we're here for you. I mean, I can speak to that even just as an ex-worker, that I had a whole community of people behind me saying, you can do this, Ramona. We've got you, right? And so that's what these post-abortive or these abortion-minded women need too. They need to know that there's this community of people who love them and who are rallying behind them and saying, we can do this together, right? Who needs them, right? And in her case, who needs Justin? We've got you. We've got your back.
What you said earlier is so powerful, is she was excited at 19. And then just that deep rejection of, I guess we're not going to have the baby. And she's a child and he was a kid. But that is so sad. But what it was encouraging is, up until that point when she talks about him wanting the abortion and then getting the abortion, she's ecstatic about having his baby, being a mom. 19, she was not like, oh my gosh, I'm 19, I can't do this, which is the typical reaction that we encounter. I'm too young.
She didn't even mention her career. Like, what's going to happen now?
What's my tour?
Right. What's going to happen to my body?
Everybody else in the world.
It's going to mess up my ab, my six pack, right?
Yeah, if you're just getting a bachelor's degree or whatever, you're like, oh my God, I got to drop out of school. She's talking about, losing tens of millions of dollars and delaying a tour and doing all this stuff. And this is back, by the way, when pregnancy wasn't this public thing where you tweet, today I went for another follow-up, and you're sending out pictures of you showing and all that. That's all a new thing. That wasn't the case in 1999 or whenever this happened.
Yeah, I think another thing I've been thinking about as we've been discussing this is, Ramona, you just mentioned it's a shame that somebody wasn't able to or wasn't willing to give her the support.
Of course, yeah.
I'm curious, how isolated was she in this? Did anybody other than Justin Timberlake know? I mean, we've heard the statistic that the average woman tells one person that she's going to have an abortion. She's one of the most famous people in the world. It's amazing that this didn't end up in the tabloids anyway. So the sense of isolation, that conversation that she allegedly had with Justin Timberlake, who knows if anyone else knew? Maybe there was no one else. And the only voice she got was the one that was telling her, No, I'm not ready.
That rejection.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how often do young women go through that? I mean, I saw it at Planned Parenthood, young girls coming in and
It's why we see the
seeking
signs out there
abortions.
as we stand and pray in front of the abortion facilities, that the no phones, or they send the support person back sometimes if they've got 2 support people or whatever. There's a clear effort to isolate the women.
Absolutely.
Because isolation
it's the same
fosters
reason
abortion.
why they want the parents to wait in the lobby while their young teenage daughter is coming back to the exam room, because then she's alone. She's prey at that point.
All right, there's a very interesting thing, and this is, I guess this is good for the social media world. This is what I never would have thought of in 2023 with all the crazy stuff with abortion. So Britney Spears sympathizers and fans went on social media to troll Justin Timberlake. So now pop culture is going after the loser ex-boyfriend because he made her have an abortion. This is all bad for Planned Parenthood. They don't want any of this stuff. They don't want Britney Spears sharing that she regrets her abortion. I'm sure local abortion workers, they're like, we don't want this in the news. This is not, because overall they own pop culture, and we all know it. That's why this is so good and interesting. So this is just gold. Okay, so I don't even know if we'll really air this podcast. Okay, so Spears sympathizers and fans are trolling Justin Timberlake on social media. Cosmopolitan magazine. Steve, big fan. You've written some articles for them.
Long-time subscriber.
Yeah, long-time subscriber. Cosmopolitan for soda lovers. He is the different spinoff. They reported that his wife, Jessica Biel, came out and said that Justin deserves to live in peace because people were attacking him on social media for the abortion. There's a lot to react to there.
It's a lot to unpack, yeah.
He wants to live in peace. The unborn child obviously didn't get that advantage. Britney didn't get that advantage. She wanted to live in peace. Also, when you're a celebrity and you get trolled, Justin Timberlake's huge. He did the Super Bowl. Does he care what social media says?
Probably.
I guess so. This guy has like 50 million followers or something.
Yeah, no publicity is bad publicity.
But to live in peace when you're being attacked on social media, you don't check your social media and you live in peace.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, like you said, there's a lot to unpack there, because there's the flip side to this where, everyone wants to paint Timberlake as this horrible guy, right? And who coerced Britney or failed Britney or whatever happened with them, right? But then there's the other part of me where I'm just like, I'm also wanting to extend mercy to him as well, because he's also post-abortive. Whether he recognizes that or not right now, at some point it's gonna, hit him, right? And maybe this is a good thing for him, because in order for him to also come to full repentance of his involvement in the death of his own child, maybe this is a wake-up call. And so I look at it from that perspective of, with every post-abortive woman, there's also a post-abortive man.
Absolutely. That's 100%. That's my point on this whole thing, is that we hear this a lot from older guys. So the ex-girlfriend comes out and regrets the abortion. He then realizes there's 2 things. I regret it too. I never wanted to say anything because I didn't think she wanted it and it would have changed our life forever, but really I regret it. Or she really regrets it. She put it in a book. She says it's like agonizing pain her whole life. I don't regret it. I'm like really glad we did it. And he can't say that. And so the guy is in this awkward position where he's going to come out and find healing with his ex-girlfriend when it's his wife defending him. He deserves peace. But I think it's 100% the post-abortive men. That is so underrated because they don't lay on the table, and it is different. But that the pain that comes with is so ignored, I think, by a lot of people. But Justin Timberlake's not above that, just like.
Right. Well, being in a crisis pregnancy itself is different for the man and the woman, because I'm sure when she told him I'm pregnant, he probably went into crisis mode, but it looked differently for him than it would for a woman who is in crisis. And that would, same thing, being post-abortive is going to look different for a man than it would for a woman.
Here's an interesting thing that I can probably guarantee you probably can't guarantee it, is wherever Britney went for her abortion, we have a 40 Days for Life campaign now.
Yeah, did they probably didn't say in the book
They didn't.
where it was.
That was the first thing that crossed my mind, I guess, just because of what we do. Where did she go? Because we've been there.
Yeah.
For likelihood, I've been there. And they don't announce that. Of course, we don't even know where she's from. We're all over the map on that, but whatever. She's probably from Rhode Island. But yeah, that's the thing, is we have campaigns everywhere, and we're probably there. Okay. Last couple of things on the social media response. So here's the other thing. This is not good. Many scolded Britney Spears for choosing to abort and basically ignore that women can be coerced or talked into by your superstar celebrity boyfriend, that abortion's a good choice.
It's sort of the problem with our social media culture, which is just burn it all down all the time. I imagine the same people who are trolling Justin Timberlake, if he would have really encouraged that she keep the baby, and he was like, I wanted to be a father, but Britney got the abortion.
Right.
Those people would then be trashing him still, and they're just sort of like this disregard, like we're going to burn down anything in our path to social media.
But I've never heard of this, and I know we get accused of a lot of stuff, but I've never heard of a pro-lifer, for sure, a pro-life person, or just anybody scolding a woman for having an abortion after she shares that she regrets the abortion 20 years later.
Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with people? She regrets it. She's
Right.
not bragging about it. That's more understandable. I wouldn't agree with it, but that's more if you're like, I had an abortion, I'm proud, and people are like, you should be ashamed. But she's not saying that. She's like, I regret this, destroyed my life.
Social media amplifies all the worst voices because it's what gets eyeballs. People are interested in it. They're going to like it. They're going to call attention to it. They're going to retweet it. They're going to ratio it. There's all the different things. But if you come onto social media, you go on Twitter and you're like, I have a nuanced and balanced opinion on something. It's just not a good way to get a lot of attention.
This is the last one. This was a big response. This is actually what I saw the most of. And it was, I thought it was encouraging. People were basically like, Britney was young. No one was there to empower her. She was in love with Justin and he broke her heart. That was a very common, I feel bad for her. He broke, not saying he's a dirtbag or how dare you still have the abortion, but he broke your heart. She was in love because of the reasons you're saying. They're 19, 20 years old. I think he was 20 or 21. And you're like, this is just sad.
The rejection. It goes back to the rejection.
Yeah.
There's no winners in this. It's just sorrow all the way through. And that's the story of abortion. Every abortion leaves in its wake a devastating trail of destruction and heartache.
Yes, I agree. The only possible winner, I think that Britney could be a winner she's kind of a wreck. She had the weird video with the swords. That was creepy. Or the knives. She could be a winner putting this in the book and all the things that can come out of it, and just time, because she's going to get all the responses. She'll probably read all the responses, but it could be it's a big unloading of a burden. It could lead her. I don't know if she's Christian. I don't know anything about her faith, or whether she had faith at any point, but it definitely points you to the mercy of Christ.
That's still ultimately it's God using the evil to achieve a greater good, but nevertheless, she'd never go back and be like, yeah, I was the winner of that abortion. It's not, the abortion itself did nothing. Anything good that comes out of it is God's grace and transformative power out of it. But the abortion, absent, take God out of the equation, there's nobody gained anything except for whoever cashed that check.
I think what's amazing for her, we've said it again, but I'll say it again, just how fast she was. At 19, Britney Spears was on top of the world, and she was just going to continue to take over the world as far as fame and money and popularity and everything. And yet at no point did she hesitate, great, we're going to have a family. We're going to be young, and that's cool. And that's what's so, I think the edifying thing in this is just her initial response.
Yes.
Because everybody in the world would have said, well, of course you got to have an abortion because you're 19 and you're like the most famous person on earth is going to ruin all that. And that didn't seem to cross her mind at all. And it was Justin that kind of,
Burst that bubble.
Burst that bubble. But yeah, it is encouraging. And it's also a reminder, I think, for all of us to always be sure to remember, and this is, I think, one of the most beautiful things about 40 Days for Life, that we get to be there before, during, and after the abortion or after the woman chooses life, but especially after the abortion because they're much more vulnerable. I mean, look at how vulnerable Britney Spears is, putting it in a book in 2023 where you're not even allowed to say you're pro-life because we're all supposed to be screaming at the top of our lungs that abortion empowers women and we need it in all circumstances all the time. And she's saying, no, it was devastating to me. I really regret it. It just shows the vulnerability right after an abortion. And that's when we're able to reach so many women and offer hope and healing. So you have any final thoughts on this?
My final thought is just to continue be that light in the darkness, right? That's what we have to be. And I know that, people are like, oh, I don't want to hear about these celebrities. And that's probably why we see a lot of negative comments because they have less empathy because she's a celebrity.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for us to look at her as the human and as the person that Christ created. And he loves her and she's suffered a great deal in her life.
I think also people say they're cynical. They say, I don't care about all these celebrities because most of what you hear from the celebrities is negative and pro-abortion and anti-religion and anti-anything decent and good. This isn't. This is positive. In the end, it's positive. Like she's sharing her heart. She's saying she regrets not having a baby, a natural response for any mother to have, by the way. And it's just like, 100 things come out of Hollywood that are just praising abortion and saying all these crazy things. And she's like one person saying, no, I really regretted it. And she's way more famous than all the people that were
shouting their abortion.
Oh my gosh. I mean, Ashley Judd, very outspoken.
Alyssa Milano.
All those people, she crushes them. Ashley Judd's a great actress. She's done some great movies. She's like nowhere near Britney Spears in fame. It's not even close, And that's what I think is the most interesting about this is this huge, one of the biggest pop stars of all time not even saying she's pro-life, but that she had an abortion and regrets it.
Yeah, and I think it sounds silly because it sounds so obvious, but it's worth praying for her. I sometimes find there's people that I know I should pray for and I don't pray for because maybe, like in this case, she's a celebrity, she seems too far removed, or the politicians, they're never going to change, but God achieves really tremendous things, and we need to pray for people, whether they're the people we meet on the sidewalk or the people that we read about in the news. Like, there's nobody that doesn't need our prayers when it comes to being touched by this issue.
I also think when it comes to celebrities or athletes or politicians, for sure, who's praying for them?
Yeah.
I mean, who's praying for them? And probably for most of them, it's only their enemies who are Christian, But yeah, I think about that. And I think about that with abortion workers and our volunteers out there. Like, what has this person been through? There were people that worked here and I was just like, I think we're the only ones praying for this person, like on earth, which is sad. Like, I don't know if they have any family. Some of them didn't. And just, there were certain individuals I remember, I'm like, I think we're kind of it for what you have of just people praying for you. And so I think that's a great point. So, and pray for John Lennon, Steve.
Yes. I don't know how to respond to that, but yes.
Put that on your to-do list.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I figured I was going to get you on that. Okay. As I mentioned at the beginning, speaking of prayer, be sure to order that 40 Days for Life devotional. You can get it on the store. Lots of great stuff at the store, by the way. We've sold a lot of cool stuff this year. So be sure to pick up a copy of the devotional. It's 40 days. You can use it whenever you want. It is an anonymous author. None of us are the authors. And it is a beautiful, beautiful 40-day devotional. So thank you, Ramona. Thank you, Steve. Please rate, review, and share this podcast, and we will see you next time. God bless you.